And thank you. Members, thank you. Good morning and welcome to today's meeting. I would officially like to declare the meeting open at 9:40 a.m. and acknowledge we are hosting this meeting on the traditional land of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation. We acknowledge the Aboriginal people as traditional custodians of Western Australia, pay respects to elders past and present, and the ongoing connection between people, land, waters and community. Today's meeting will be run in accordance with the MIDAP Standing Orders 2025 and MIDAP Regulations 2011. This meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the MIDAP website. Panel members may refer to technical devices throughout today's meeting to assist them in considering the information before them. Today we have a full panel for the items on the agenda. Our first group of panel members comprise to my furthest left, Mayor Gary Mack, welcome. Councillor Kate Barlow.
Mr. John Symes, Specialist Member. Immediately to my left, Clayton Hine, Deputy Presiding Member, and my name is Francesca Lefanti, Presiding Member. We have no apologies for the item relating to the town of Cambridge. And the previous minutes are available on the website, and these minutes will be available in due course on the website as well. As some people may be aware, we had an earlier item, Part B, on the town of Mosman Park. However, this application was postponed until the meeting on the 18th of February 2026, as submitters were not notified by the town of Mosman Park in accordance with Regulation 39(1)A of the Planning and Development Regulations. And so therefore we will obviously not be dealing with this matter on today's agenda. We will now move immediately through to Part C, the town of Cambridge, with our full competence. Members, can I have a show of hands that you have duly considered the documentation associated with this agenda item, and that includes the agenda and the related information. That is unanimous for the minute taker. Members, could I check if you've had any briefings or meetings, and I'll principally go to our local government members, with any meetings, council, or consideration of this item? Thank you. Members, generally, are there any other disclosures in relation to the item before us? Yes.
I put in a disclosure of interest as I'm the chair of the Public Art Committee, and public art is mentioned in this development. So therefore, I will judge it on merits and vote accordingly.
Thank you. The interest is an impartial interest has been disclosed, and full participation in today's item, including voting on the item, is approved. We will move through to the item. There is one item associated with the town of Cambridge. It is at lot 4, number 40, Kimberley Street, West Leederville. It is a two-storey mixed-use development. There are no presentations to this item today. We have received a written deputation from the applicant Carlo Famiano, and members will have already received that. We do have with us officers, Glenn Burton from the town of Cambridge, and so we will go immediately to officers from the town of Cambridge. Do you have any comments that you wish to make before we go to questions from the members?
Yes, I do. I would just like to make a short introduction to the application. My name's Glenn Burton. I'm the assessing officer. I'm here with Stephen Lamming, the manager of development services at town of Cambridge. So this application seeks approval for a two-storey mixed-use development comprising an office at ground level with one multiple dwelling above, located within the West Leederville Precinct Structure Plan area. The West Leederville PSP was approved on 3rd February 2026 after the RAR was submitted to the DAP, and it now fully replaces the former planning framework under LPP 2.5. As a result, the assessment against LPP 2.5 contained in the RAR is no longer applicable. Importantly, the northern lot boundary setback variation identified in the RAR is no longer an issue, as the PSB permits a nil setback to that boundary. Accordingly, the panel is not required to exercise discretion in relation to side setbacks. The proposal is consistent with the objectives of the mixed-use zone and aligns with the intent of the PSB. It provides an appropriate low-scale transition between the higher intensity activity corridor to the south and the adjoining residential zone land to the north. The remaining matters requiring the panel's discretion relate to a shortfall in deep soil provision and potential visual privacy impacts. These matters are considered acceptable on a performance basis and appropriately managed through conditions requiring planting on structure, detailed landscaping outcomes, and permanent privacy screening in accordance with the R codes. Vehicle parking requirements are met, bicycle parking is secured by condition, and the development triggers the town's percent for public art policy, with the contribution to be delivered in accordance with that policy. The application was advertised with no submissions received, was supported by the town's design review panel, and is therefore recommended for approval, subject to conditions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Panel members, do you have any questions? Town's officers. John Syme.
Yes, I've got a few questions. Thank you. First of all, condition 1, is there any reason why there's 2 years and not 4?
No, panel member. No particular reason. That's just, we've put that in there. We've run the conditions past the applicant and they did not have any concerns with the recommended conditions today.
Secondly, regarding landscaping, now you're wanting to invoke Government 3.3. That requires an additional 50 square metres of on-structure planting. There's maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 square metres sitting in there on the balcony now, I imagine. How would you imagine they are actually going to achieve that? And what happens if they can't? 50 square metres on this structure is a lot.
It might be a typo, panel member. I think it's supposed to say 5.4 square metres.
Okay, well, yeah, okay. If that's the case.
Yeah, I do agree. It's excessive for the site, and in identifying it, I think it's supposed to say 5.4 square metres. I apologise for that.
All right. So, and if that comes a bit short on that, I mean, they've got a particular proposal for the balcony, and really that's the extent of on-structure planting. I mean, presumably you've got some discretion around that. Otherwise, we might be having to look at just accepting the plans as they are.
Yes, I agree.
You agree that you have discretion on that, or it's a fixed point?
I think if we remove the numeric number and just say, as per the landscaping shown on the plans, that will address.
You're happy with that? Okay, I'd much prefer that. Secondly, thirdly, and last one, it's a bit of a technical issue and probably something that gets resolved over at building permit stage. And it's really a question more for the proponent, but they're not here. But it strikes me that the levels between the finished RLs and the laneway are quite large. I mean, if the finished RL on the house itself is 35.1 and you've got some spot levels on the laneway at 33.3 or something like that, and really only a couple of metres of driveway going up to the things, that's a big level change. Is that something which you're confident can be resolved? Because it's not resolved on their plans.
Panel member, we referred this internally to our infrastructure team. They didn't identify that as an issue.
Yeah.
If there are any issues, it would have to be resolved at building permit.
Yeah.
If there are issues that can't be resolved, the applicant would have to potentially submit a Form 2 application
Come back.
if it required any significant design changes.
All right, okay, it's probably an issue they're going to have to worry about. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Further questions? Yes, Member Clayton Hine.
Just back on the landscaping condition, you're asking through 6A and B, you're asking both of those things to be satisfied, which is, I think, impossible. I know this is a small matter, but should the and at the end of A be an or?
Well, I think panel member, where it said B saying where the deep soil requirement cannot be met, demonstrate planning on structure in accordance with an acceptable outcome. I think that's giving some flexibility because it's a design.
That's right.
I think the main thing is just to remove the numeric requirement.
Yes, but what I'm saying is the way the conditions are written at the moment, you've got to satisfy A and B.
Oh, okay. Sorry. In between A and B, yeah,
Yes.
it should be an or.
Yes. Thank you. In terms of public art, does the Town of Cambridge have a public art strategy? So if it is a cash in lieu contribution, that's going to, is strategically identified as being a contribution to somewhere in that locality, or how does that work?
Yes, that's right. So if the applicant applies to contribute art through option 2 and they contribute 1% of the cost of the development, that goes into a fund, and we have a strategy that identifies certain areas within the town where public art installations would likely go.
So there is a strategy. Good, thank you.
Any further questions?
No.
Thank you. I have one question. It relates to condition 4, which appears to relate to building legislation obligations. I'm just wondering if there's a particular reason why it's a condition rather than, say, an advice note.
This is a standard condition that we've been putting on applications. It's just requiring them to finish it to a professional standard. I mean, I think this is a standard condition that has been modified to include reference to the Building Act. But this is just to ensure that the finish of the wall facing other properties is at a high standard and a high quality.
Yes, and I understand that you've got a series of advice notes that refer to matters under the building legislation. This one, however, has a similar reference, but it was a condition, and that was what my query related to.
Yeah, so it's just it's a standard condition that goes on most applications with boundary walls. I think this one's just been modified to include reference to the Act, whereas I guess the standard condition doesn't include reference to the Act. That's all.
Thank you.
So it can't, as a follow-up, it can't be a planning condition then because it doesn't relate to the planning legislation.
Well, it can be modified to remove reference to the Act because all it's asking for is that you finish the wall in a high standard.
Okay.
Thank you. Are there any further questions from panel members? If there are not, we will move back to the agenda. In accordance with the provisions, we will deal with the item as it appears before dealing with anything else. Is there a mover of the item as written in the agenda? It is moved and it is seconded. Moved by Mayor Gary Mack and seconded by Councillor Kate Barlow. Would you like to speak to the item?
Well, thank you very much, Chair. This is a house on the north side of Cambridge Street on Kimberley Street. The actual property is on the eastern side of the road. It's by way of context, it's probably a post-Federation house with extensive modifications on the rear and has been used and it's been used as office space rather than residential. The building itself goes up to the boundary with zero setback on the north part. It's not on a heritage survey, but 3 other houses on that street are. Pardon me. And they're at 101, 3 and 65. The building itself sits across the road from another mixed-use, predominantly residential development. It's about 3 houses from the intersection. The application itself falls well within a Wembley West Leederville precinct structure plan. It's 2 stories versus 6. Its plot ratio is 1.5 versus 2. And our plan anticipates it to be that area to be mixed residential and commercial. That is mixed use. The setback is no longer an issue. I just want to briefly talk about the tree canopy. It's worth noting that in the plan it has Captain Cook Calaton, if I pronounce it right, which is basically a native Australian blockbush. And of course, the state government's urban greening strategy has a goal of 30% by 2014. West Leederville was about 10 to 15%, so we're well short of what the state government goal is in that area. So the emphasis on the right plantings, I'm quite satisfied with the species, and I think that it'll provide some coverage in what will be a development that will fairly cover that site. The other thing is the public art, as the officer quite rightly said. We try and get there, just not to answer a question, but make comment. Where our art policy tries to install art if people put cash in lieu nearby to the said development. So on the whole, this meets all the requirements. While the actual facade of the house does contribute to the heritage of that street. Unfortunately, the extensive modifications at the rear of it and the fairly dilapidated nature of the front part of it means that it couldn't be put on a heritage survey as a result. So as a whole, I do support the application based on the material for us. And so that's the Chair's all I have to say on that issue.
Thank you. Second, I'd like to speak to the.
Thank you very much. Well, to me, the built form is in keeping with other developments that have replaced old houses in this area. And to me, all the points were addressed. Parking, which is a big issue in that area, has been addressed. Also, it sets a standard for me for future developments in West Leederville, where you've got demonstrating mixed use that fits into the environment without overtaking the traditional homes. The only issue, once again, is I'm concerned with the public art, and I think it's very well done and will enhance this area. So, yeah, I'm very supportive of this.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers on the motion? Member Clayton Hine.
Thank you. Look, I agree with the comments that have been made. It's a well-designed development on a very constrained site. Largely satisfies the planning framework with few areas for discretion being sought. I'm satisfied that given the site constraints, the reduced deep soil and landscaping vision will be adequate, and the visual privacy issues can be satisfied through the condition to be imposed. The scale of the development works well as a transition development between the higher density area and the adjoining residential. I was pleased to hear Mayor Mack's comments about the public art being nearby, and that's the sort of answer I was seeking in a way, because I get a little bit concerned about money going into a fund and it not relating to the development in some way.
Just to clarify, not on the site, but
no, I agree with that. Just a few or a couple of amendments, if I may, presiding member. Condition 1 to change that to 4 years from the date of approval, and the reason being that is now a pretty standard period of development approval.
Thank you. Is there a second? Already seconded. Would you like to continue speaking? I
don't need to speak to that.
Second, I'd like to speak.
No.
Any other speakers on amendment 1? We are going to the vote on Amendment 1 in relation to the timeframe of 4 years. All those in favour? It is carried unanimously.
In condition 4, I suppose I was going to suggest that is an advice note, but I'm happy to leave it there and take out the words in accordance with Section 88 of the Building Act 2011.
So Amendment 2 is to modify condition 4 to remove reference to the Building Act.
The reason being that in that form, in the current form, it doesn't relate to planning legislation and therefore probably can't be a planning condition in that sense.
Thank you. And the seconder for is seconded John Sy. Do you have anything further you wish to make?
No.
The seconder like to speak?
No, I think we've discussed it.
Any other members wish to speak to this amendment? We're going to the vote on Amendment 2. All those in favour? Carried unanimously.
And then, from my point of view, finally, at the end of 6A is to change the word "and" to "or," so that that reduces the takes away the need for the applicant to satisfy both A and B.
Okay. And are you wanting to deal with the comment made by the experts in relation to the amount?
Sorry,
Did you want to also deal with?
I was going to leave that to a fellow panel member to deal with.
All right. So we are modifying condition. We're modifying condition 6, which deals with essentially replacing the word "and" between A and B with "or." Is that correct? Is there a seconder for that? It is seconded. Would you speak any further? Would the seconder like to speak?
Except I'll foreshadow a further change to condition 6.
Do you want to deal with that? And if the mover accepts it, it can be included as part and parcel of the same.
I'm happy to. I'd actually delete the entirety of section of condition B and put a full stop at the end of deep soil in condition A.
Okay. That changes the "or" back to an "and."
Well,
I think.
that's right. It's a different approach to it.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll deal with this. We'll separate them out because they are quite different. Are you still moving are you still seconding?
Yeah, I'll second it for now.
So we're just dealing with this amendment, which is Amendment 3. We are dealing
I
with
withdraw that.
your amendment in its entirety. Yep. Comfortable to withdraw it. So we're dealing with no Amendment 3 at this point and no modification to condition.
Thank you.
I might move it then because I do like people. So I will move that 6A and be deleted and it is Lou between A and B, or is there? Because I do actually.
I appreciate that we're in a debate now. So
in debate,
yes.
sorry.
So we'll now go to the next speaker as you've already spoken.
Amendment or proposed amendment?
No, you've spoken on a substantive. So we're dealing with every other speaker on their
Substantive.
on the substantive, and if they've got amendments as part of that, you will get an opportunity and obviously right of reply as the mover. Sorry, you're continuing to speak.
No, I'm happy with the development.
Okay. Any other members who haven't spoken? John Simon.
Yes, look, for the development overall, it's a good development. I think it's an interesting one in this location. It's quite a nice little example of intensification for here. There's probably some challenges as it's executed, but I think that they are going to be worked out at building design stage. I will move on condition 6, the deletion of part B, clause B.
So
Deletion of the word and take out the entirety of B, and I'll give reasons if there's a second.
And it's coming out.
Yeah, so essentially you take out B and put a full stop after deep soil.
Have two more. Okay, so for members, the motion that's been moved is removal of B in its entirety, and accordingly at the end of A, it'll become a full stop after word soil. Is there a seconder to that motion? Is moved John Syme. Can you just seconded Clayton Hall?
Could you just repeat that?
The amendment to condition 6 is B, completely deleted, that whole section which says where the deep soil requirement cannot be met. And then A, there's no and at the end of it, it just becomes a full stop. So it's basically and in A, full B, and then it continues down, C, D and E being renumbered.
Thank you.
Would the mover like to speak?
Yes, look, we have in front of us a set of a proposal which includes a landscape plan, a landscape conceptual plan, and which goes a long way towards actually meeting all of the requirements of this clause. And I think if we've got a set of plans in front of us with some pretty advanced landscaping concepts in there, then we should take that and judge it accordingly. It's quite clear that if we are slavishly keeping to all parts of element 3.3, then that either becomes quite difficult to do if it's actually 50 square metres, and really beyond the intent of that, I think. From a practical point of view, if we've got some indication of some deep soil planting where it is logical, that is on that balcony, and we accept those as the plans, then we should accept them. I think that the town is quite secure in that there is still a requirement to do a more detailed landscaping plan. There's still a requirement to specify the plant species, the soil depths and so on, and irrigation arrangements in some sort of detail. And there is still a reference back to element 3.3, even if we're sort of saying, well, we need to acknowledge the intent of that, including the location and area of deep soil, which is actually in this case, the more important element of it is actually the deep soil component is actually the more important part of it. So for those reasons, I understand that from a nice to tick every box point of view, B is nice to have, but I think from a practical point of view and an actual allowing the development to proceed in the form that it is presented to us and in the general form that we are this substantive motion is approving, then we should accept the landscaping advanced concept that is in front of us and accept that as what we are approving.
Would the seconder like to speak to the amendment?
I fully support the comments made by the mover.
Any other speakers wish to speak on amendment 3?
I'll speak against it. One reason is that I don't think that that clause B is too onerous. If the actual, if I put 2.4 square metres, or rounding it off to say 5.2, it's only really 2 metres, 2.2 by 2.2. It's really even less than that if you get the square root of that area. And I don't think it's onerous. I think that if we have more there, it actually gives an alternate. And I do appreciate that there is at the moment a suggested species list and a suggested location of where those species are going to go, including the size of the tree that's being planted in terms of its the tub volume. But I think that this is not an unusual clause we put in there. So, and the officer, I think, actually addressed that. Certainly 52 is just not on the go. And I don't think it should be both, it should be alternate. And I think that, so I support and I'll foreshadow that if this amendment is lost, they'll now move an alternate amendment to substitute and for. and change the 52.4 square metres to something like 5 square metres.
Thank you. Any other speakers on the amendment? I will speak to the amendment. I oscillated back and forth on this particular proposal, particularly in relation to where off-site additional landscaping could occur in a meaningful manner that enabled the proposal to both interface with the street as well as deal with the rear parking, which is obviously off the rear lane. There are limited opportunities for this proposal, and I note that it's a very small scale development, low in both its height and intensity of development. I am reasonably comfortable with the amendment that's been put, particularly in the context of the street, this development coming right towards the street. I note this development over the road is also the larger development, also on the street. And my view of that was that there was principally landscaping in the verge, but not observable from my perspective on the actual building itself. So given its locational context, I'm comfortable with this proposal. Its landscaping as shown on the plan being applicable and consistent for the development, particularly in the context of the proposal we have. And as I've already indicated, in order to get additional landscaping in that site, from my perspective, undermines potentially the overall design, and I'm not confident that it creates additional value for the overall proposal and the local area. And as we indicated, the building has its parking off the street, which enables the full range of the verge to be enhanced for landscaping by the applicant and or the city through its own mechanisms, or the town through its own mechanisms. So I am supportive of this amendment for those reasons. I move back to the mover for right of reply on amendment 3.
Yes, look, thank you. Just briefly, look, if we do this, we would, and assuming the substantive motion goes through, we will be approving a set of plans which include on-structure planting in a location with an indicative plant species. That I think is plenty of indication of level of structure planning, which makes some sense. I think to specify beyond that is really overdone.
Right of reply has been had on amendment 3. We are going to the vote. All those in favour? Against? It is carried 4-1. I have no further amendments, and most of what I would otherwise said is already been said. The members have indicated it's a low scale and intensity development. It is consistent with the planning framework, both the current and now the newly adopted West Leederville precinct structure plan. And I note that in terms of those provisions, this development is quite a low intense development even within those provisions. It does operate, as already been indicated, a transitional development reflecting the different densities in and around the area, and it's got ideally located in terms of the surrounding mix of uses. The design also, from my perspective, incorporates activation and surveillance to the street, which is a design element that is always encouraged through these inner urban areas, and it's already made a number of design changes to reflect the 10 design principles. Overall, I am supportive of the proposal. Those are my comments. I move back to the mover for right of reply and close up debate, if you like.
No, I've got no comment to make. Thank you.
Nothing further to make?
I just like to make one comment. Look, I agree with the comments that have been made. I think it's a really good example, and I think it'll be a fantastic development in the town, really supported by the community. So, yeah.
Thank you. We are going to the vote inclusive of the amendments carried. All those in favour? It is carried unanimously for the minute to take it. There are no other applications in relation to the town of Cambridge on today's agenda, either in two applications or SAT reconsiderations. And at this time, I would like to thank Councillor Kate Barlow for participating in today's meeting and for your attendance here in person. Thank you. For the minute take, it is 10:15 AM and we will be changing minutes and preparing for our next meeting. procedural motion to take a comfort break. Is there a move? It's moved. Clayton Himes, seconded. John Syme, all in favour. It's carried unanimously. And then it is 10:15 for the procedural motion. Thank you. Have a good one.
Hi, Jason Ho. If you can hear me, I just need you to click accept for you to be able to present to the meeting today.
Have both members.
Just, Neil Holder, I just asked him to start video. He should be there.
Welcome to the meeting, Mayor Patrick Hall and Councillor Ben Kunza. We're about to start this section of today's meeting. For the minute taker, it is 10:22 a.m. and we are recommencing the meeting, Part D, City of Canning. We have a full composite of members for this part of the meeting. Online, we have Mayor Patrick Hall, welcome, Councillor Ben Kunza. In the room to my immediate, or to my furthest left, Member John Syme, Specialist Member. To my immediate left, Clayton Heim, Deputy Presiding Member. And my name is Francesca Lafanti. I will officially declare this section of the meeting to open. I've already indicated at this point at 10:22 a.m. Panel members, can I have a show of hands that you've duly considered all matters in Part B of the agenda and Part B related information? That is unanimous for the minute taker. Members, are there any disclosures of interest? I will first go to councillors online and ask if you have any disclosures of interest in relation to this agenda, and if you have undertaken any meetings or briefings in relation to this proposal, either council or with staff. Yes, we're going to Councillor Mayor Patrick Hall.
Thank you. No briefings or meetings for me or Councillor Kunza, I believe. But as is my way, I can't guarantee that I don't have a conflict of interest, as no office bearers or directors of these companies involved in the development or the owners are listed in the Part B. So I have no ability to know whether or not I have a disclosure to declare or not.
Thank you for that comment. I will take that as being acceptable. If you are not familiar with any of the operations, as you've indicated today, then you will have making impartial judgment on the matters that we have before us based on the material we have in the agenda. Full participation is obviously acceptable for you throughout today's full meeting.
Thank you. I'm hoping some changes might be made at some point on that matter, but let's see.
Thank you. Councillor Ben Kunza, do you have any declarations of interest you wish to make?
No, I do not, presiding member.
Thank you. Members in the room, are there any declarations of interest? There are no declarations of interest. We move forward to the agenda. We have one application. It's a Form 1 application, Lot 88, number 22. Woodthorpe Drive in Willetton, and its additions and alterations to an existing place of worship. We have 4 presenters to today's meeting. Our first presenter is online, Mr. Jason Ho. Has he dialed in and is he available? Your son. Thank you. For all of the members that are presenting, as you're probably aware, it's a 3-minute presentation time frame. We have received all the material that's been provided to us and members have duly considered it and read it, as you've seen in the meeting. And I would ask you to focus on the key matters you wish to get across to us in your 3-minute presentation. I'm supported by secretarial staff from DAP in relation to assisting with managing the program of the meeting. I'm handing over to Jason Ho. I can't.
Hi, I'm not. I can't open the camera. Sorry.
That's okay. If you'd like to start whenever you are ready, Jason.
As I list on my document, my main concern, like for this project, is it was listed going to be 600 people going to be in the worship area. Is the parking enough?
At this point, it's not a question session. It's just an opportunity for you to.
Okay. Yeah. For me, my concern is suddenly 600 people coming into our suburb. I'm worried about of the safety and all the sorts of stuff that I have in the area. Because in our suburb there's not a lot of people, and suddenly 600 people coming in that's my major concern. And I don't actually have a lot of problem with the building and other stuff. My major concern is the safety. Yeah.
Thank you. Is there anything further you'd like to say, or have you completed your verbal presentation?
I kind of complete.
Thank you, Jason. We will go to members of the panel. Do you have any questions to our first presenter, Mr. Jason Ho? Yes, Clayton Heim. Member Clayton Heim has a question to you, Jason.
Jason, in your deputation content, you've talked about at point 2, faulty access using rear door floods the quiet streets. Can you explain what you mean by that?
Point 2 that I was listed is because they opened a back door on the Briar Street, and that could, because of the limitation of the car park, they say there's gonna be 600 people, and I calculated car park is only 100 and something. I'm just worried if there's not enough car park, would they be parking at the back of So I'm just worried people parking at the back and like just parking on the street.
You're talking about people parking in Blythe Place?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. No, thank you. I now understand.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from panel members to our first presenter? There are no further questions at this juncture. Thank you, Jason. Would you just like to stay in the meeting but go to mute, and we will continue with the meeting with our next round of presenters. We will go to our second presenter. If you would like to come forward to sit. Yes, our second presenter is Ye Lu as well. Thank you. Yep. If you would like to present when you are ready, as I've already indicated, all the panel members have received your material and read through it, and you will have 3 minutes whenever you start your presentation, and we will then have questions after. Over to yourself.
Okay, I just the most important focus for my presentation, because I'm limited listening. Sorry about this. Then one is no really antis and waste, because why? If we like this, maybe another commission will follow suit this. This is because we are living in this quiet street. Location is quiet. If like this will be impact our residents' living quality. And others is a waste bin. If put the waste bin in the boundary, this is had the outdoors, and the hygiene is a risk to the residents. And the second is the excuse building book. This extension is a form of the architectural building, as our property sits direct to the west. This massive structure will cause the severe overshadowing and suffocating is a hemorrhaging feeling for our property. It's an overdeveloped that completely ignores the residence character of the village. And the third is the sound noisy, because according to 600 people into a %50 of the building space is an acoustical disaster. This is noisy from the chantings and amplified sound on Sunday because the community stay of the rest the Sunday will be overwhelming. This is a density of noise is possible to mitigate in a residential zoo and violates our rights to the quiet enjoyment. And 4 is the potential risk in the future, health and structure. I just consider incense and scented candle emissions pose a direct health threat to the children and who suffer from the severe respiratory allergies. I also consider potential risk in future to our properties, such as structural damage to our foundations during the construction. This project prioritize scale over people. I urge the committee to deliberate this application. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Panel members, just stay there. If panel members, do you have any questions to our presenter? Member Clayton Hine.
Where are you in? Are you behind the existing development
I'm
or the new part?
direct neighbor with the temple.
So you're behind the existing building.
My building is here, then the temple is here. Temple is I think this is east south,
Okay.
and
So you're in Blythe Place.
I'm behind him. Behind
Number 3 Blythe. Number 3 Blythe.
Yes, 3 Brass, yeah.
Okay. So what? So
There's 2 properties there. One is the 125 and another is 3 Brass.
okay.
Yeah. Yes, that's 3 Blythe. And that's,
Okay.
that's the sun's.
Okay. So you say you hear the chanting now when they're in the existing building. Do you hear that quite loud? Is it?
Now there is a parking area.
Yes, but the existing building, do they make?
Yeah, I already had this. I now have a contribution to property there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, okay. Thank you. That's fine.
Any further questions? I have a question to you. Thank you for your presentation and thank you for your material. There is a couple of sets of plans that relate to this development. One, the original set of plans had waste in a particular location and access off the rear. This current plan that we've got in front of us has a walkway to the rear and the waste has been moved central to the side. Is that the plan you're referring to in your presentation?
Yeah, I had another special documents. If you want, I can give you see because my listening.
I just wanted to make sure that we were talking about the same document. I'm happy to. It's unusual, but I'm happy to just for clarity, as it's more difficult for you to explain it. If you have the plan there, I would be interested in knowing if your presentation was on the final set of plans, not the earlier set of plans.
The means I already had the 2 properties there.
Sorry, yes, yes, you can, thank you.
他的 plan 不是我的。
他的新的 plan 他说他们的新的 plan 你看过
我看过的呀，就是不按照新的。
He's referring to the new one. So
The new set of plans, the latest set of plans.
The pathway at the back.
Yes, thank you.
Is what she's referring to.
Thank you. I just wanted to get clear that you were referring to that. I thought it might have had some elements of the earlier plan. So thank you for that. I don't have any other questions. Thank you for my clarification. Any other questions from panel members? If not, thank you very much. If you'd just like to take a seat, we'll continue with the meeting. We have presenter Jeremy Hoffman. And do you want Yi Feng Moi to be together?
Yes.
Together? Yes. You have, thank you, if you'd like to take a seat. You both have 3 minutes. You can either speak one after the other. And then we'll just do questions at the end of both your talks. So whenever you are ready, you speak. Proposal.
Yes, good morning, Chair and panel members. Excuse me. My name is Jeremy Hoffman from Row Group. I'm here with Yi Feng Moi, who is a member of the Australian Buddhist Bliss Culture Mission Incorporated and also the project architect. We're also here with several other members from the group. As you would see from the notes, we don't have a formal presentation. We're quite happy with the recommendation and the recommended conditions and satisfied with the content of the report. We really just wanted to attend in order to answer any questions, but also deal with any matters that might have arisen through the submissions and objectives that have attended this morning. We've had a look at the comments that were raised. There's a number of points that we thought we would like to clarify. First of all, in terms of patron numbers, the maximum patrons through the approval is 284 patrons attending at the site at any one time. There are events that are held once or twice a year, and they would be up to a maximum of 600 patrons. And as is noted in the recommended approval conditions, because that's currently occurring now, the existing operations, it would be a case that there would be a specific event plan that would be prepared and approved, and we would seek approval at that time from the City of Canning. So that's not necessarily something that's covered in this approval. It is something that we dealt with separately. Where the issue has been raised as to traffic movements, we do have a traffic impact statement that has considered all of the relevant components as assessed by the city. The traffic report demonstrates that the level of traffic movement and impact on the existing locality is acceptable. In terms of car parking, during the events where there are up to 600 patrons, I don't have an aerial photo in front of me, but there is a large reserve that is adjacent to Woodthorpe Drive and has frontage to Portcullis Place, which is available for parking and is used at those times. And that's an arrangement that's made with the City of Canning at that time. So certainly from those aspects, we're comfortable. And believe that the relevant aspects have been satisfied. In terms of potential overshadowing and impact of potential building involved, the building is a maximum 2 stories. There is an area where it is slightly over height, and that is in the central part of the extension, but closer to Woodthorpe Drive. It's not in the northwest, which is in proximity to residential properties. At that location, it's 2-story in height, which is largely a single story with a balcony balustrade on top. Certainly the building height is probably slightly less than what you would typically expect for a 2-story development with a 3-metre setback, and those aspects are compliant with the requirements of the residential design codes. In terms of potential overshadowing, the set of plans does show an overshadowing plan, and it shows that at 12 noon on the 21st of June, there is actually no overshadowing on any of the residential properties on that adjacent western boundary. In terms of other points that have been raised, there's reference that's been made to burning candles or incense. That's actually not occurring at the site, not intended to occur. In terms of chanting, not certain that that's actually occurring either, is it?
Listen, it will happen in the existing main hall, the meditation hall, which is already happening. And then with the new extension, it's purely for meditation. So it's like silent mindfulness and more on education purpose rather than spiritual and
the group's not aware of any concerns that have been raised in terms of noise impacts. Certainly as part of this proposal, there is an acoustic assessment that's been provided by Herring Storer Acoustics, and there is a recommended approval condition which specifies that there's to be an as constructed acoustic assessment completed at the end of the development when it's in operation within 3 months of completion. Are there any other points worth raising? I think that hopefully that covers everything, but certainly if there are any specific questions that the panel members had, we'd be more than happy to assist.
Thank you. Is that both your presentations? Would you like to
Do
speak?
you have anything specific to raise?
Maybe just to further clarify the overshadowing, the reason why there's no overshadowing, which is a bit unusual, is because first we set back 3 meters from the boundary, and also the height of the wall is really purely just 2-story. And then the shadow cast on the current neighboring property is the fence.
It's shadow from the associated with the existing fence.
So yeah, technically there's no change.
Yep.
Thank you. We will now go to panel members. Panel members, do you have any questions to this presenters? I'll go to panel members online. Is there any questions from members online?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, we're going to you, Mayor Patrick Hall.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to know, is the congregation growing? Is that the primary reason for the redevelopment?
Yes.
Were you able to hear that, member online? You might just be a little bit louder. We seem to have a few.
Yes, the congregation is growing, and it's intended to accommodate that. It's a range of other activities as well. Is it just what's happening on the site? Yes.
Any further questions?
Yeah, I just had a follow-up, sorry.
Yes.
And just on that, is the current development scaled for the current size of the congregation, or is it taking into account the future size of the congregation? It's obviously growing quite quickly. You've only owned the property for what, 6 or 7 years?
I'm advised that yes, through the chair, the proposal can accommodate the anticipated future expansion.
Thank you.
Any further questions? We will go to Councillor Ben Kunze. Do you have any questions to these presenters?
No questions, thank you, Chair.
Members in the room, do you have any questions? Clayton Hine.
Is the sound amplified at any time?
Use a speaker or microphones.
They do use speaker, but it's in a very humming kind of way. Yeah.
And
it's just a constant noise. It's not like
okay. In terms of the overflow parking, there was a plan that I saw that I think it showed 40 bays in the reserve next door. So with 600 up to 600 people coming, where the rest of them park?
I think it would be expected that, if I can answer, that a number of people would also arrive by bus. So there may be coaches or other methods that would bring people to the site and then collect them at the end of the day.
And the new pathway to Blythe Place, will that remain open for people coming to this centre, or they'll be closed, or that's just for bringing the bins?
I forgot to mention that one. That's purely just for putting bins out for collection. It'll be closed because it's for the security of the.
Okay, so it's closed, or
yes.
basically.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Do you have any further questions? I have a couple of questions. They sort of a little bit of a follow-up. Sorry, yeah, no. Well, my question was a follow-up on the events. The material we have is that you have 284 as a general congregation, up to a general congregation, and you have events which you've indicated today and in the material are subject to separate consideration by the city. I'm kind of interested as to why it's a part of the current application in this particular proposal. Normally events are matters that are dealt with as one-off proposals, and typically a planning consideration would be conditions would be quite specific about how many, how big, that kind of thing. And this is beyond the material we've got here, includes space beyond the subject site. So I'm interested from a planning, I have exactly the same question to officers, why the events are a direct association with this application when they occur, components of them occur off-site.
It's like the way we operation to date is we do have this 1 or 2 occasional big event happen yearly, and then we thought it's just to be upfront and.
If I can follow up on that question.
Yeah, I get what you mean.
That's actually not part of this
Planning.
approval. Is that correct? Those events are not subject to this approval.
That's correct.
They will be separate approvals.
Yes.
So this is information. It's not a planning matter at this point.
That's right. And certainly from the city's perspective, they've included a condition which I guess makes the applicant aware of that. But certainly it's not envisaged that the DAP would be asked to grant approval to that at this stage.
So we're not approving anything around 600. We're approving 280 or whatever.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So I presume the same condition is on the existing development.
It may be. I'm not exactly certain.
Well, from the officers. Yeah.
So I have the same sort of question. We'll go to officers when we get there. My second question is also a follow-up from Member Himes' question. And thank you for clarifying that the rear access to Blythe is for waste only. Why waste on Blythe and why not no access with waste off Woodthorpe Drive? Having driven around that area and the development in this grouping of buildings, which was the former light industrial, none of those have access into Blythe at all. They all seem to have parapet walls and other things. Why, in this instance, would you need or propose waste to be picked up from there and not from Woodthorpe Drive like the rest? Is there a particular issue that we should be aware of in terms of forming that view?
I wasn't directly involved with that. I must admit I've come into this halfway through once it was lodged. If I'm able to speak to that.
Yeah, so it's just a logistic, because the kitchen is close to Blythe Place. And then the kitchen on the first floor is close to Blythe Place. And then it's just convenient for them to take the bin store. Yeah, but yeah, we can.
If the bins were proposed to Woodthorpe, it's just a longer distance to roll them.
Yeah, that should be.
So that's essentially my question. The bin store is at the rear, but it's within the parking, access to the parking. And the material we have in our waste management, is it once a week they're being collected, as I read in the waste management plan?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any particular issues if access off Blythe was not allowed? Will come off.
That would be okay. It's just a longer distance to push the bins, but that's fine. That can be achieved.
And my last question is about noise. And I note that the plans show on the upper level, and I accept there are 2 sets of plans which I referred earlier on. And this goes to that very question. This upper floor plan shows an outdoor mediation al fresco, which has a lovely balcony area that wraps around what is essentially the sort of back end of the sort of kitchen area, etc. And it includes some screening up to 1.6 metres. My question relates to the acoustic report. It appears to me, and please clarify if I'm wrong, the acoustic report is based on the earlier set of plans and includes those plans. So my question, I have exactly the same question to the officers. The report says that the acoustic proposal is acceptable and the acoustic plan is acceptable, but the acoustic plan relates to a different set of plans. And the second is, and whilst I appreciate the noise regs have a way of managing noise from places of worship, I'm interested in your view as to how that outdoor space directly relates to the place of worship rather than socialising of people. So it goes to the key issue for me of noise and the weight that I can place on the detail in the acoustic report. It's not this set of plans that we have in front of us. I've got exactly the same question to the officers.
start. Yeah, that's correct in that the acoustic assessment relates to the initial set of plans. It hasn't been updated for the most recent set. In terms of that upstairs, that balcony area, how is that to be used? And what's the likely noise impact with that?
It comes off the dining area or the multi-purpose dining hall, not the meditation hall, which is at the front.
It's intended to use as an outdoor meditation area. However, like it can be also when it's overflowing, which we don't anticipate it will happen. So in the back to the 600 patron, the big occasion, that maybe the overflow people will go out and have dine in those area. But that's a rare occasion.
Thank you. So my question goes to the noise management. So that section of the site directly abuts 3 Blythe, which is currently vacant. There's 2 little small blocks there. And and that's really what my question's about, is how you're going to manage noise in the context of what I've said to ensure there's a minimal impact, or it's mitigated to what is a very small residential block, which has limited options for where it can place its outdoor space. So that's where I'm trying to get to on my question.
In terms of that, certainly it's the intention that the operation of the development, once it's completed, will be in accordance with the noise regs, and we wouldn't want to be upsetting our neighbours in terms of the nature of the operations. I think that's something that would be dealt with through, there is a requirement, a recommended approval condition, which deals with effectively an as constructed acoustic assessment being completed. And we would look to, as part of that process, look at what those activities are and what the noise impacts might be, and make sure that it's consistent with what the relevant requirements are.
Thank you. And my final question relates to scale and number of people. The material we have here talks about your main service. I think it's on a Sunday, it said, but it talked about other activities on site. My read of that material, and again, I'm seeking clarification, is that they are much lower intensity in number. And can you speak to those other activities that happen throughout the week other than your main service, which is obviously where you're anticipating the greatest number of people? Can you speak to the other on-site activities, scale, and I'm thinking through impact of noise at those sorts of elements? Yes, come forward. I want to announce who you are, your name, please.
Yeah, my name is Jeru. I'm the monastic teacher of the Buddhist Bliss Culture Mission.
Thank you, Jeru.
Now, usually the mission is closed from Monday to Wednesday. So we are open to the member of the public that they can come in and use the hall for their own silence meditation practice. It's open to the community because, as we know now, there are lots of mental health issues in Australia. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we have opening hours for the communities. So usually you may have a handful of people, like 1 or 2 or 3, they come in and inquire about our activities. And then we have about 3 to 5 volunteers that come in and help to clean up the place, like the toilets, clean the tables, cushions, and all that. So Thursday and Friday, there's no activities. It's just merely keeping it open so people can come in and use the hall for their meditation. Now, Saturday, we don't have Sunday congregation on Saturday, but sometimes we do have youth group discussion that we sort of have a small group, like cell group, that they maybe say about 3 to 4 cell group. One cell group is about 8 to 7 people in one cell group. So they discuss things that how to stop overthinking, how to manage my anger, how to regulate my negative emotions. So they sort of form small group discussion. Now, the main objective of Australia Buddhist Bliss Culture Mission is the focus is more on education, that to deliver the Buddha's teaching that could help a person's mental and emotional state. So when it comes to prayer or chanting, it's actually very minimal, all right? Like on a Sunday, we sort of start the chanting only for about 40 minutes. And when it comes to chanting, it's not something that we shout loudly. It's more to harmonize. So it's a consistent, very harmonizing chanting that can help a person when it comes in, they settle the mind. All right. Then after the 40 minutes sort of harmonizing chanting, then they sit in silence. So it's meditation. So there is sort of a short guided meditations to help them settle the mind. And then after that, there is teachings. All right, we deliver talks that relates to how to put it into practice in everyday life. And then we sort of serve a simple meal for the members of the congregation, because we do see that after a service, people will be hungry. All right, so we sort of serve a simple meal. So
that's only on the Sunday.
Yeah, this is on a Sunday. Saturday, as I say, like maybe once a month, we have cell group discussion. So cell group discussion is very quiet. They sort of go into classroom, they have small group discussion, and then they interact. And then after that, they will enter into the meditation hall to learn how to meditate.
Thank you. Thank you for that information. Panel members, do you have any further questions to this group of presenters? John Syme, Member John Syme.
Yes, condition 4, I think, Republic Art. I noticed in one of the planning reports, not yours, Alding's, I think, it was some argument there about, not condition 4, there was some argument, 22 isn't it? Yeah, sorry, 22. Some argument as to excluding a public art requirement. Are you comfortable with condition 22, or do you need to make an argument about that?
Look, in terms of that particular condition, I know that Alding.
And sorry, if I can just go on that, maybe to you two, how would you see that as being exercised in the context of what your activities are, which are very specialised and very particular?
Yeah.
And they don't welcome a random piece of art somewhere. It's quite specific. So there's 2 questions there.
Now, for us, we have an immediate problem that we have to face is not so much about whether we support public art or not, but rather can we afford it? Because for a public place of worship, we don't charge anything for any services, any classes, or even the meal. We don't charge a single cent. So everybody that comes in is on voluntary donation. So there's a box there. If they want to make donation, it's up to them, you know. So all the money raised is more from donation, fundraising to donation. So public art, that percentage is going to cost about at least 50,000, right? So can we afford it? We can only try our best, because we have to raise fund to build. And then we have to raise fund to furnish the internal, so that at least we can operate, you know, to the basics of the needs. Then public arts become something that is a luxury that we would love to have it, but we have to fundraise in order to afford it. So that is a very pragmatic problem that we face, you know, because we don't earn, we are not a profit, we are a not-for-profit organization, so it's basically a charitable institution. So we don't earn money in that sense. So I don't know, we can only try our best to raise funds.
On that particular point, I've had discussions with the city staff and understand the basis for the imposition of it. And from the group's perspective, we're not contesting that condition as part of the application.
You're not contesting it. No.
We are trying our best to raise funds for it.
Okay.
Any further questions? Yes,
Sorry.
Member Clayton Heim.
You're allowed to contest it if you want to.
I guess it was if you don't want to impose it, no one's going to complain about it. I guess from our perspective, it's as noted in my submission at the beginning, it's quite critical that we get the approval issued and progress with all the relevant points. That's something that we'll deal with at that time. But if there is a delay in granting the approval, my understanding is that there are a number of grants that are subject to assisting the funding of the project, and they could potentially be in jeopardy. Is that right?
Yes. Yes. That's our major concern.
I want to go back to the numbers of people. Condition restricted to 284. How often would you get 280 people? But by the way you've been speaking, it doesn't sound like you get anywhere near that number during the week.
No, we don't. We are talking about in the future. All right. At this point, our weekly Sunday congregations, maybe about within 150 people, including children. Because family do comes, we do provide Sunday classes for the younger kids, for the teenagers, where we also guide them about mental health, about meditation. So, so in total, maybe every Sunday is about 100, and including the kids, the toddler, about 160 to 107, 160 to 180. All right, it's sort of within that range. Now, occasionally within a year, we do have some special events, like we celebrate the birthday of Sakyamuni Buddha. So on that day, we have sort of ceremonial services that people comes and bathe the baby Buddha, and we sing hymns like church, they sing hymns. So this is where it's more like a sort of water flow. People don't just stay. It's not that at one time you have 500 people, they just come in staggered time to participate in the ongoing bathing of the ceremony. And then we provide a vegetarian lunch, like they can just take and go. So we provide it in takeaway boxes, so they can just take and go. So on paper, it's like, there is 500, 600 people. But practically, it's for that from 9:30 to 1:30, you can come in anytime within this time to participate in the ceremony, which is they will play hymns and they come in and bathe the baby Buddha. So from 9:30 to 1:30, that is the flow. So not so much. So far, we don't really have a problem with traffic. Why? Because when it comes to this style of special events, we do have 5 traffic wardens volunteers that were stationed at different areas to show them, okay, there is parking in this area, there's parking in that area, or when to slow down. So we do try to accommodate, we always take into consideration the neighbors. We don't want to upset anyone. Yeah.
Thank you.
And I would like a follow-up on that specific matter. What you've explained, is that, and Jeremy, you may be able to clarify as well, is that what you would classify as an event?
Yes, and that is once a year.
So that explanation.
Correct. That is not a weekly event.
And do you currently seek the city's approval for that event?
Yes, we do inform the city, and we also apply permit to use.
And so you treat that what you just described then in the context of the numbers of congregation, that explanation isn't about an event.
Correct.
Not your day-to-day or your weekly or regular activities. So I just want to try and separate out what you just explained.
Correct. The weekly is within 180. Yeah.
Sorry.
Or 200, around
there.
Any further questions from panel members at this stage? Sorry, I have to put my glasses on. Councillor Ben Kunze, you have a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, I just wanted to ask, following the questions on expected patrons. So the parking has been built, the ratio is 71 car parking bays, which provides a maximum of 284 patrons. And that's because the building is designed to accommodate 284 patrons. Previously, you had more open space. Well, currently you have more open space. I'm just wondering, given that the building is designed to accommodate 284 patrons, where do the other 216 to 316 patrons go when you have large events of 500 to 600 people?
Just mentioned. Sorry. When it comes to that special events, as I mentioned, it's only once a year, and it is sort of like a fluid type of ceremony where from 9:30 to 1:30, people can come in at any time.
So you wouldn't have 600 people staying from the beginning to
Yes.
the end for the full duration. You would only have 600 in total that may stay for half an hour to an hour potentially, and then leave, and then other people arrive.
Because there is staggered time.
And so would you monitor how many people are coming at any one time?
You don't, most of the people would turn, most of the people, I would, from my experience in the past, for all these past years, there are people who turn up at the beginning of the ceremony, and then they will leave halfway, all right, because they need to go to work. And then there are some people that will turn up just to take the lunch box and go. They love to have the vegetarian lunch. So you have people that turn up sort of from 10 to about 11 or 11:30, and then you may have another flow of people that comes in from 11 to about 12:30. So then again, there are people who are also leaving at the same time. Yes. So this is only a once-off event every year. And so we do try to accommodate traffic by encouraging our regular members to carpool.
In speaking with Yingfeng, what she's indicated is that it might be a maximum of 600 people attending over that period of time, but there wouldn't be any more than 200 people on site at any one time. Hopefully that answers what you're asking, question.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Members, are there any further questions to the applicant? You can come back if you wish. We are going to go to offices at the City of Canning. I have listed here just introduce yourselves. I can't find the details of your names. If you can just go through that.
Adam Stilatano, Michael Italiano,
Stephanie Gagero.
Thank you. Would you like to make any comments about the proposal and the responses you've heard before we move to questions from panel members? If not, we'll go straight to panel member questions.
No, the city's happy to go straight into the questions. Thank you, Chair.
Panel members, are there questions to city officers? Yes, we'll go to Ben Kunza.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, just following on the discussion with the large events, the 500 to 600 patrons, which we've subsequently, it's not at that one point in time, but for the event 500 to 600 patrons will go through. I just wondered, with regards to condition 8 and 9, which goes to this issue, condition 9 states that a maximum of 284 patrons can attend, but allows additional patrons under the umbrella of the approved event management plan. My question is, should condition 9 include reference to limiting the number of large-scale events or outline what events they might be? I just wondered, given that you've stipulated the 284 patrons, but it's quite open-ended with respect to how many events that might be. I just wondered whether you might provide some comment as to how the city might regulate how many large events might be approved. They state that the intention is only to have up to 2, but what will regulate that going into the future without it being stipulated as part of the clause?
Thank you, Councillor, for the question. Just in answering that, so the maximum 284 is to cover the parking for the site. The site has 71 parking bays, which can accommodate the 284. So that's the reason we put that on there. In regards to the amount of times the special events happen, it's noted that it's going to be, fall outside condition 9. And that's why we've got condition 8. So under that event management plan is where we would look at how many times the place of worship would have those events. And as indicated by the applicant through the report and today in the discussion, that it's going to happen no more than twice a year. So we're confident that those two conditions together, will cover the city if there is any issues down the track in terms of car parking or any other complaints.
Can I just follow up, Madam Chair?
Yes.
I just, so what would stop in 5 or 10 years' time the proponent potentially wanting 8 events per year? How will future staff and administration know that the original intention was to only have up to 2? Will the event management plan that's approved as part of this proposal be stipulate that? Or is it just up to the city knowing in the future that the intention was to only have up to 2?
Thank you, Councillor, for the question. Correct. So the event management plan would stipulate how many times those events will occur. So in 10 years' time, if there's a change in staff, etc., that would be something the city has that would mandate or acknowledge the occurrence of those events. If in future the owners or the applicants would like to extend the occurrence of those big events, that's where the city will look at it again and consider any previous complaints or any previous issues that we had with those larger events. So yes, it would be something we'd expect in that environmental management plan.
And just to add to that, there is a trigger in that condition. It's prior to occupation of development. So the city sort of envisages that this would be dealt with through that event management plan prior to the occupation of the building.
Thank you. And I've just got one more question, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Just on clause 18, with regard to the landscape management plan, it currently doesn't, it speaks to the landscaping plan and the requirement to submit an amended plan prior to the building permit being submitted. The condition, however, does not speak to when the landscaping plan should be implemented. Should it actually say that the detailed landscape plans shall be implemented before occupancy and shall thereafter be, sorry, I lost where the clause is, therefore be maintained for the duration of the development?
Thank you for the question. So sorry, could I just clarify, was that condition 18 and we're just trying to specify whether there would be like a trigger for it to be maintained for the duration of the development?
Yeah, so condition 18 speaks to the landscape plan. It says that prior to the building permit, an amended plan needs to be submitted. The last sentence, however, the landscaping in accordance with the submitted detailed landscape plan shall thereafter be maintained for the duration of the development. But there's no, you'd normally have an indication as to when the landscaping plan should be implemented. And I was just wondering if that's before occupation.
Yeah, it would normally say prior to occupation, so that's something that's potentially been overlooked. The city wouldn't have any issue with that wording.
Thank you.
Thank you. We go to Mayor Patrick Hall. You have a question?
Thank you, Chair. Just a number of very quick questions. Just on page 13 of the report, the table in the centre of the page has a heading of general industry zone. Should that be residential zone?
Thank you for the question. You're correct. It should say residential zone.
That's okay. There was just I just had a query in relation to, there's a paragraph immediately above that table and a sentence immediately below it. And I'm just trying to understand, it actually says the final sentence of the paragraph immediately above the paragraph says, in considering the appropriateness of the additions and alterations to the existing land use, the development is considered against the objectives of the residential zone in LPS 42. Is that accurate? Is that what I'm trying to say? Because
yeah,
can you explain
so to confirm, oh sorry man, to confirm, so that table there, those objectives are the residential zone objectives, so that there is all correct. However, the title of that table, unfortunately, there's an error that should say residential zone, where we got general industry. So to confirm, that table still represents the objectives for a residential zone.
Okay, thank you. Just on page 12, just the final paragraph explains the discretion that was used by the city some years ago to allow this use in a residential area. Can I just ask, that was obviously a decision taken at a point in time. Would the decision have been different if the city had known at the time the plans for such a significant upscaling of this site in a residential setting?
Thank you for the question. So I believe the previous approval for the site was in place under the preceding planning scheme, under town planning scheme number 40, where there was a different zoning over these sites. I believe it was light industry or general industry. Now, as to whether or not the development would have gone ahead in terms of this land use on the site if the city had known that it would be zoned residential R20, I guess it's a question that's impossible to know for sure. The comment I can probably provide on that is that the land use itself is something that can be contemplated. So it isn't a land use in the residential zone, one that can be contemplated through a development application. So it'd be something that would be considered through that process as it has done today.
And just a final question from me, just on page 18, there's some commentary there just talking about the abutting property, a large site which is actually earmarked for future residential because it's a residential area. How does the city see this redevelopment of the subject site? Does it see it impacting the viability of the significant investment and the need for further residential in that area? Does it impact, do you feel, the viability of that site?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, as per the city's RA, we're satisfied that what is proposed at the moment fits in with the existing character, which has the light or the previously light industrial zone developments, and it fits in with what the future potential redevelopment will be, which is residential. We're satisfied through the building heights and the provided setbacks, the contrasting materials, building heights, openings, and separation along that northeastern boundary, that if that site is redeveloped to be residential, that the proposal would still be in keeping and not impacting that proposal. So as part of our assessment, we did look at what it's currently abutting and what it will potentially abut in the future. And our assessment concludes that there will be no issues.
And just to add to that, sorry.
And just a final question on that. Sorry, Madam Chair, my final question. Just on that, council made a conscious decision to change the zoning there from light industry some years ago to residential. And obviously the discretion was applied under the deemed provisions at the time because the scale of this current this building, the subject building at that time, was in keeping with and not really let me say, it didn't have a great impact on the residential around it. I'm just wondering why we're now transitioning back to practically the same light industrial appearance by upscaling this with a $5 million redevelopment on a site surrounded by residential when the intent of council was to transition away from light industry and protect this precinct as a residential precinct. Why are we going back and allowing this site to be upscaled to this extent?
Thanks for the question. I suppose what I would seek to address first is just in regards to the residential zone. So there is an ability to approve or to consider non-residential land uses in the residential zone. It was something we discussed in the table you referred to earlier, just in regards to point 3, objective 3, which deals with non-residential uses that are compatible with and complementary to residential development. One of those land uses that is generally considered complementary is a place of worship. It is commonplace to have these types of land uses similar to childcares within residential zones where they are complementary and compatible with the surrounding development. To answer the question in regards to why we would look at this type of built form in this current zoning where it is residential R20, the city's assessment has been conducted in accordance with the framework available, that if it was to be redeveloped as a single house in an R20, the same provisions would apply in terms of building height, scale, setbacks and things like that. And the city's assessment has identified that it is compliant with that framework in place.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any further questions? I have. Okay.
Thank you. To 17, the waste management. I read the waste management plan prepared by Talus Consultants, and in that page 5 it states that the recycling bins will be stored outside the bin enclosure. Is that still going to be the case? Because I think, as was previously indicated by the presiding member, the waste management plan was prepared for a different set of plans.
Yes. So if we're going off the plans, they have indicated the recycling bins would be inside the bin enclosure. Noting that the previous waste management plan was off the old design, because the waste collection was still along Blythe Place and the waste collection points came from being closer to the neighbouring properties to within inside the development within the car parking arrangement, the city's engineers reviewed that and had no issues with with that arrangement and not needing to see an amended waste management plan.
17, condition 17 requires that it be implemented in accordance with that plan, with that waste management plan, which refers to a different set of plans.
Yeah, so the waste management plan has got the old set of plans in it, but the procedures outlined in that would still be consistent with what the new proposal proposes.
But that included the reference to recycling bins being placed outside the bin enclosure.
Yeah. So if DAP's of view to change that, and we have it an updated WMP is to be provided to demonstrate the recycling pickup, the city would have no objection to that.
So just on that point, I know you might have other questions. On that point, I speak to the same question I asked of the applicant, and in the context that what the deputy member has indicated, the waste management plan relates to a set of plans that are different to what we've got in front of us, and included a crossover to Blythe Place with orientation of waste bins and a parking area. As we've seen in the set of plans we've got, there is a single pedestrian access way only to be used for waste management. So my question is exactly the same. Is there an objection if the current plan needs to be updated anyway, as it doesn't relate to the new set of plans? What's the city's position on all waste management actually coming off Woodthorpe and no access being allowed through the back except for potentially emergency service access, for example, but no waste management, so that Blythe Place, which for all of those other large developments that form part of the previous light industrial zone, have no access at all. So it's a very quiet neighbourhood with properties on one side. So I suppose my question is very simple. What's the city's position about all waste management for this site occurring off Thorpe?
Yeah, thank you through the chair. Under the DRP reviews, waste collection and waste storage points was something that was mentioned. Now, if they were to have it off Woodthorpe, I would assume that the proposal would need a change, that they'd have that bin storage closer down to Woodthorpe, where it potentially would be visible from the streetscape. So that's one thing that we would need to consider. Where it's located now, it is screened from any sort of residential properties and screened within the development. So that would just be one point I would mention. In terms of the actual waste pickup along Woodthorpe as well, that was not something the city considered under the application, nor did the city's engineers, etc. So if that were to be of mind to change that arrangement, we would request that the city has an opportunity to review that and have a look at how that arrangement would work.
And my final question on that specific issue, does the city currently use its waste vehicles? Do they currently service or drive through that Woodthorpe, for example, to access the adjoining newly under construction for a number of the buildings, the new estate directly opposite on Woodthorpe? So do your vehicles, your waste vehicles, currently use that road? Are they capable of travelling along that road for waste management? No, that's really my question.
So just to confirm, thank you for the question, Madam Chair. Just to confirm, you're asking if waste collection for those properties on the other side of Woodthorpe, if their waste is collected from the Woodthorpe or the street in front of it?
No, not whether they are collected from Woodthorpe, whether your waste vehicles are currently, whether the road, Woodthorpe Road, is capable of collection in terms of its configuration. And I suppose the simplest example is if they are already using it to either access the new estate. The new estate has no frontage to Woodthorpe, so they must be accessing internal to that estate. But I suppose my question relates to the functionality of Woodthorpe in terms of being sufficient size to take waste management trucks.
Yeah, that's no. Yeah, and considering all those other existing land uses on site, none of them have access from Blight. So it would be assumed that waste collection is already getting access through Woodthorpe for those other ones. Without checking without the city's waste and
understand,
engineering,
yes.
But it's assumed that Woodthorpe is used for waste collection, yes.
Thank you. So I interrupted your series of questions. So I have any further questions? I have a couple more questions. My question goes to condition 8, and my question goes to essentially the relevance of that condition in this planning application where we are not, where the parkland is not subject to this application, nor is any detail of the events, and this condition is specifically to guide you with not necessarily a number. I suppose my question is, could it be an advice note but not form part of our conditions? Because we're really, according to this material, not making a judgment about it. And I note that the Shawmac plan shows a layout of parking as part of some sort of event activity, which is, as I already said, on a site that's outside of this development application itself. So I suppose what's the importance of having it as a condition, and why not just an advice note?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, that is something we did discuss internally, if that could be an advice note. Now, the city obviously has taken the more precaution approach to have it as a condition. The city unfortunately couldn't do a blind eye to it because it was mentioned in the application, and we did need to cover that basis. In regards to the parking, previous stuff has been mentioned where they could use parts of that POS. Once again, that's something we could look at formally through the event management plan, as well as additional requirements that they could have additional parking along Woodthorpe, whether that's curbside parking or verge side parking. And in terms of those arrangements, that would just be notifying the city's rangers, etc., that there is an event on, that there would be more street parking, verge parking, etc., than normal. So that's why we've had the 2 different conditions, 9 covering worst case that the parking can be accommodated on site, and then 8 covering the city to look into other alternatives for these larger events, noting that it is outside the planning realms and in what the proposal is. However, because it was mentioned, we did need to consider it.
So this condition has no certainty in relation to the panel that's sitting today as to what they're actually approving in relation to events, either number of events, scale of events, in terms of people, frequency. And that's really why I raised the question of a site outside of the subject site, why it would form part of a definitive planning condition that we would have to be clear about what we're actually determining. Because it's also all for consideration and discussion by the city. There's no details that we're making a judgment on today. Do you have any?
So would the view be?
Yeah, I think the city's position, so the reason it was considered as part of the original application, as Michael said, was just it was something that was submitted by the applicant, which allowed them to go outside of the scope of the normal restrictions on 284 patrons. So this allowed us that ability to consider those subject to approval through that.
So no, I understand that.
Yeah.
So if I can interject there, my question is, so I understand what the applicant has given. My question is, what is being requested of us as decision makers on that matter? Because this condition doesn't set down any of those parameters. Hence, our determination is not very clear in terms of our position on the events, whereas and that's really what I was trying to get at. I'm happy you don't have to write it should be one or the other, but it doesn't read for me as what we are being asked to make a decision on as part of the application on the site.
Yeah, no, I understand the panel's concerns with that, and noting the information that was provided by the applicant today, in terms of the fact that it may not be as frequent as expected, that it would actually be up to the 600 attendees on site at any one time. It's maybe not as important that it's included on this as maybe it was deemed in the assessment. There are procedures, the comment I can provide is there are procedures in place to deal with event approvals through local governments that would sit outside the scope of the development application that would be available to the applicant. So if the panel was of a view to remove that condition, it wouldn't preclude the applicant from still proceeding with those events through that process through local government.
Thank you. And my final question relates to, again, a similar question I've already asked to the applicant. It relates to noise and noise management. As I've already indicated today, the set of plans we're determining are different from the set of plans that the technical reports were based on. And when I look at the acoustic report, it has a different set of plans, and it includes, interestingly enough, on the upper level at Blythe Place, the residential component at the back facing that adjoining site at number 3 Blythe Place. These plans that we are being asked to make a judgment on include the open outdoor meditation area. And my question relates to the weight that we can place on the acoustic report, which actually has a different set of plans and a different use in that back area, directly fronting the residential property. And the conditions refer to that plan. So I suppose I'd like to hear your comments about the design in front of us, acceptability on the upper level from a noise perspective relative to those residential properties in Life. The report doesn't really say that, but it's a different set of plans.
Thanks for the question. Yeah, to address specifically what the question you were seeking to get out of it.
So if you go to question 23, question 3 refers to that plan, that report.
Yes. Yeah, so in regards to that modification to the plans and the consideration of that land use on the upper floor, we know that obviously the acoustic report referred to alternative plans that was referred to our health team when the application was lodged. Following the revised plan submission by the applicant, it was re-referred to our environmental health team to get comments on the amended plans in the context of that acoustic report. And our environmental health team identified that there weren't any concerns with the rearrangement of the land uses on the site. I guess the context to that speaks to what the actual intended function of that space is for the applicant, in that it is a meditation hall and spill out area rather than something that would be associated with more constraints in terms of noise. Be that as it may, the city did include condition 24, which requires the ground truthing of noise emissions for the 3 months post occupation of the building. And the rationale behind that condition was a recommendation from our environmental health team just to ensure that whilst they didn't have any concerns that the building could meet the noise regulations, they wanted this condition in place just to confirm that once constructed and functioning, the building would be in conformance with those regulations.
Thank you. And that comment that you just provided, that the city officers reviewed the updated plans and were satisfied, where will I find that material, those comments?
So I believe the city has included in our internal referrals section a comment in regards to it. So it is a generic comment in regards to those internal referrals, but I don't believe there was any inclusion of the actual commentary itself. So that comment on the internal referrals is on page 12.
Yes, it just says was referred to the relevant internal business units with comments or recommendations of relevance incorporated into conditions. Is that what you're referring to?
That's what I'm referring to, yes.
And just to interrupt as well, we do have some comments on the public consultation submissions for the submission details regarding noise. That the city has reviewed that as well.
Yes. Okay. Any further questions from panel members? So on condition 23, are you expecting that an updated report be provided as part of the building permit stage, given my earlier comments about the plan and the layout and the details? Is that what you're expecting? Because this current one talks about the plan, the old plans. And the second bit says that they must do, that a noise report must be submitted within, by an accredited acoustic consultant within 3 months. But when they submit the accreditation report, what are they referencing against it? So do you expect in condition 23 that an updated acoustic report would be provided prior to
the approved plans?
To reflect the actual plans that we have in front of us?
Yeah, the approved plans.
That's my questions. I think I've had enough questions. Any further questions from panel members? If not, we thank you for your comments, officers. We move back to the agenda. We have a recommendation at the beginning of the agenda as per the DAP provisions. Is there a move of the recommendation as written in the beginning of the agenda? No mover. It is moved. John Syme. Is there a seconder for the recommendation as written?
Yeah.
It is seconded, Clayton Hine. John Syme, we go to you.
Yes, look, this, what can we say? This is, I think, is an important function within the community. I think from a land use point of view, there is a reasonable question as to whether it fits within a residential area. I think in this instance, it certainly does. It is still adjacent to some non-residential uses, which are probably likely to be there for some time. itself is a fairly substantial site. It's a fairly isolated site in terms of its effect on anything else. I think that the general questions there are around intensity of use I think have quite reasonably been addressed by the applicant in terms of the actual use from a functional point of view, from a day-to-day point of view, even from a Sunday point of view, is pretty low key. I don't think we've got any danger of any sort of nuisance coming from that in terms of noise or in terms of crowding or anything like that. I think the traffic and parking report, the traffic management report, addresses all of the reasonable traffic issues there might be. I think that I know there's been some question about whether the bin store's in the right place, and there might be a few adjustments to some of these to require particularly the noise management plan and waste management plan to be brought up to date. But the general format of the plans as submitted, I think, are quite reasonable, and I think bin collection on Blythe Place is entirely appropriate. For example, it itself is a pretty low key event. I would like to move one amendment though. Explain it why, if there's a seconder, there may not be. That is to exclude clause 22 regarding public art.
The movement is to delete condition 22.
Yes.
22 for public art. Is there a seconder for that condition? It is seconded. Member Clayton Heim, would you like to speak to that?
Yes, look, thank you. Look, I've always been a big promoter of public art. I understand its position in the development framework intimately. I think, however, that it's at a stage now where it needs to be, and its application needs to be applied judiciously. And I think in this instance, because of the nature of the user, the nature of its function, the nature of its really outreach function to the community, it does form a particularly useful community function, I think. The fact that it is a continuing use and expansion of what's already there, the fact that it's a non-profit organisation, I think for all of those reasons, and also I am struggling to see how an expression of public art in this location for this use would actually be meaningful either to the users, to the organisation itself, or to the public at large. So for those reasons, I actually don't think, and I understand it's city policy and all the rest of it, but for those reasons, I don't think it's actually appropriate in this instance. And I think that it becomes a tax, an unnecessary tax on development for an organisation, which I think we can say is really needs to put its funds into other areas. So I don't think we need to see public art as a tax on development. I think in this instance it actually is, and I don't think it's appropriate.
Would the seconder like to speak to the motion?
Yes, look, I support the mover here. I've seen increasingly over the last, I suppose, 12 months, the blind application of policy in terms of public art. And I think we need to look at how we apply our policies, and it's horses for courses. And I agree with the mover in that this is probably not a place where it's necessary. I think the building itself is probably a bit of public art almost. And I also agree that the funds can be better spent on community activities that are undertaken by this group. So I'm happy to support the amendment.
Are there any other speakers on Amendment 1? Yes, we go to Mayor Patrick Hall.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to actually speak against the proposed amendment. And look, I feel, without being disrespectful, I need to be really careful proposing to remove conditions that have been agreed to by the parties without good reason to do so. And I was a little concerned about earlier comments which seem to suggest to the or encourage the proponent to put an objection in, and here it is before us. This is not an unnecessary tax on development. If we go down that route, then we would also have the same argument for the landscaping on the verges surrounding these developments. Is it unnecessary to the built form of the development? Absolutely. Is it important to the amenity and the aesthetic of the development? Absolutely. And particularly for a development like this, that in my view is somewhat jarring to the residential amenity in which it has been set. I would think that any measure that may ease the impact on the surrounding amenity, and that would be through public art, would be supported by the panel, because that would be in keeping with arguments we've heard from speakers earlier about amenity and about quiet enjoyment. And for some reason, this $5 million development does sit in the middle of a residential area. And so I just think that we should be supporting any measure that will ease the impact of it. And it's not for us to preempt what exactly should occur on the site or could occur on the site or how it should sit. But I can tell you that just around the corner, also in Willetton, is the Faith Community Church on Ranford Road, which had a similar condition placed on it, as is the way, because this is a council endorsed position with good reason. And that big building, a very large building, has had its impact on the local environment eased by a very large mural facing onto Ranford Road depicting local flora and fauna, and it is lauded by the community and was accepted by the proponents. I do accept that, perhaps the proponent would prefer not to have spent up to $50,000 on the public art, but yes, they are a not-for-profit, but they're also spending $5 million on this development. This is a drop in the ocean, but something that I think would be applauded if we approve the development today by local residents. It's a residential area. I would accept the amendment if it was going to be in an industrial area, for instance, but it's not. It's in a residential area. We should be supporting public art for the reasons outlined.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other speakers on this amendment? Yes, we go to Member Ben Kunze.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Likewise, I would speak against the amendment. It is city policy, but also, and it was stated in advocating for this amendment that it's not required in this instance. But as the Mayor's articulated, this is a gentrifying area. It's an area that we're hoping to transition from light industry to residential. It butts a brand new development, it butts public open space. In order to ease the look, or whilst it's a visually nice building, we have a policy in place on large developments to provide public art. And this is a $5 million development. It's been stated that this is to cater for future growth largely, that it will be minimally used. It is a not-for-profit, but it is going into a $5 million expansion for a facility that's for future growth. I don't think the 1% additional impost will lead to it not proceeding, but it will help with the amenity in the precinct. I would argue that this is why this policy is in place. It's a gentrifying area. It is a residential area, but it currently has not so great amenity. If we can utilise these sorts of developments to improve the amenity through the public arts policy, then that's what we should be doing.
Thank you for your comments. I will speak to this proposal. From my perspective, I think the considerations for me have been the scale of the development, the type of development is its locational context, adjoining a reserve, having a walkway through that reserve into a mixed area, both with the older industrial as well as some new modern. I'm comfortable to retain the condition. I note the condition provides the flexibility, which is what I was looking for, that the public art can fundamentally form part of the building and the development itself. It doesn't have to stand alone, external to the development. It actually can form part of the development. And as has been indicated through the material we have, as well as through the presentations, the facility, this proposal itself, is a very community focused facility, and from my perspective in this particular instance, whilst I understand the sentiments in regard to potential impacts of it or removal of it, I think it is warranted because of the nature of the proposal, the functioning of the way that proposal will work, particularly in the context of being a very welcoming community facility linking to that broader community with which it's in. I don't see that it's a huge impulse, and as I've already indicated, the art can be forming part of the construction and design of the development. So I'm happy to retain the public art condition for the reasons I've cited. Those are my comments. I move back to the mover for right of reply and close off debate. We are going to the vote to delete condition 22. All those in favour? Against? It is lost. Would you like to continue speaking?
Look, I think while I'm going, I think we should probably just tidy up some issues, because if I don't do somebody else will. Condition 23, I think we need to require an updated acoustic report to be consistent with the approved plans. So maybe after recommendations containing the acoustic report dated February, prepared by Harrison. I think after that first hearing store acoustics, we should say shall be updated to be consistent with the approved plans, and thereafter.
So an updated acoustic report shall be provided that aligns with the provided that aligns with the approved plans prior to, when do they have to provide it? Prior to building permit? And thereafter maintained?
And thereafter, because
implemented in full.
And, sorry, implemented in full.
And thereafter be implemented, and shall be implemented. So recommendation containing acoustic report dated July 25, approved by hearing explorer, shall be updated to do you say align with the approved plans and shall be implemented? I think that's.
So do you want in there included prepared by who they have to prepare it by?
Who does it? As long as
so the words would then be an updated acoustic report shall be provided that aligns with the approved plans prior to building permit.
No. What I said was recommendations contained in the acoustic report dated July 25, prepared by hearing explorer, add the words shall be updated to align with the approved plans and shall be implemented in full. Excellent.
Okay, great. Is there a seconder that is seconded? Would you like to speak to it?
I think it's straightforward.
Would the seconder like to speak to it?
A bit straightforward.
Do any other members wish to speak to amendment 2? There are no other speakers. Do you wish a right of reply?
No.
We're going straight to the vote. All those in favour? It's carried unanimously. Would you like to continue speaking?
I think there was some issues on the waste management plan. I think we need something on condition 17.
Want to move something? I've got some comments that I wish to make on.
So I'll start. Waste management plan, but by TELUS consultants, dated July 25. Yes, it should now read. The waste management plan prepared by TELUS consultants dated July 25 shall be updated to align with the approved plans, and all provisions and recommendations in the plan shall be implemented for the duration of development to the satisfaction of the city.
Is there a seconder for that? It is seconded. Clayton Hyam, do you wish to speak to it further?
I think it's straightforward.
Do you wish to speak? Any further speakers of it? I will speak to the recommendation, and it's more to consider a modification of the language, and that would be to include a requirement that all waste management occurs via wood.
I think that's a separate issue.
Okay, so no change to that. Do you wish to reply? We are going to the vote. All those in favour? It is carried unanimously. Okay, would you like to continue?
I think that's all of the modifications that I require. I think from an overall project point of view, I think this is a particularly good one. I'm very pleased that it's catering for a growing interest in this area. And I think it's an important function. I think it sits very comfortably within a residential environment. Its use and its function and its community outreach particularly is important there. And so I have got absolutely no problem with that. So I would commend the project for approval.
Thank you. Would the seconder like to speak to the motion?
Thank you. Look, I support the project. I support the proposal. My concerns have never been with the built form itself. I think it's quite appropriate. I think it's well designed. I think it does fit within a residential area. It does fit within the objectives of the residential zone. I think given its location, adjacent to some industrial areas, but also accepting that there's some residential opposite or on two sides to this, I still think this can work. My concern was always with the activities or a number of people that were likely to be using this and the amenity impact that would have on the community. However, having heard the applicant and now understanding a lot better how this works, I think it is a use which can be supported. On that basis, and I may not get a seconder for this, but I'm looking to retain condition 8, but to modify condition 8. And the modification, and I need a little bit of word crafting, but anyway, what I'm proposing is that it would read as it currently does, prior to occupation development, an event management plan shall be submitted and approved by the city. The plan is to identify the arrangements that would be in place for up to 2 larger events each year, comprising up to 600 attendees at each event in total, and include, and it's got the following inclusions. And I'm going to get the reasons for that. Wait for just a second. The reason being, I think the community around this deserves to understand how big or small this really is. So we've heard from the applicants, and I'm trying to put in place a limitation for this. So from the community's point of view, you can't go beyond these 2 events, up to 2 events a year. That's my reasoning for it.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for amendment modification of condition 8? It is seconded, Ben Kunze. Would you like to speak further on your reasons?
Well, I don't know whether there really is any reason to speak further. As I said, I'm just trying to put some parameters around this, and I accept that the events probably are a separate issue, but they are happening at this place, and I think for the community's sake, they need to have some comfort that there are boundaries. Thank you.
Thank you. Would the seconder like to speak to this amendment?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Look, I concur with everything that's been said. I acknowledge that there's been concerns raised with respect to oversight parking and the domain of this panel. I would probably say that maybe the points in the plan, some of that might be an advice note, but and so not directly, the panel was not directly asking for oversight parking to be stipulated. But I do think it's incumbent on the panel to recognise that large events are being planned, and that we provide some sort of respite or comfort to local residents that within a residential area, if there are to be large events, which are proposed, that an event management plan has been requested and submitted and approved. I do think that is important, and if there's any issues with respect to what has been stated previously, then perhaps we can amend to put those parts within an advice note.
Thank you. Any other speakers on this amendment? We're going to we're going to Mayor Patrick Hall first, and then to John Syme. Mayor Patrick Hall, and then to Member John Syme.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Look, I wasn't going to speak, and I understand fully the intent of the amendment, but I am going to speak against it, just on the basis that, listen, I don't feel that churches or temples should be in residential settings, but they are. And in the city of Canning, like all cities, we've got a number of very large churches, including Catholic churches. And do you know what? They are open Christmas, Easter, Lent, a whole range of dates. They don't have adequate parking, but you know what? They always find a way. And we don't have a raft of complaints about parking in streets and overuse. And this temple, I guess in my view from what I've heard today has swayed me a little. The use on the site will be a passive use. And I also feel that you have to take into account there are some religious freedoms that are special to these sorts of applications, where people do have particular rights, and those religious freedoms, I guess, would be impacted or inhibited by placing great restrictions on a site that we're just looking at approving because we're expecting there to be, future growth. And to cater for that future growth. So putting on a restriction to just 2 events, I'm not sure that's the way we should be going. I think we should be accepting that people live in the precinct now understand they have a temple, in that residential precinct. And do you know what? If there was going to be some issue in the future, I'm sure that local residents would come to the City of Canning, as others have done previously, and we would then find a way to put those conditions in place. But I'm not certain we need to do that today, right now. So, just for those reasons, I understand fully the intent, and thank you for raising it. But in my personal view, I just don't think it's warranted for those reasons.
Member John Syme.
Yes, look, I'm with Mayor Hall on this, I must say. And I think the applicants have been a bit unfair to themselves in that they've put out 600 there as a big, scary number, when the reality is on an event day, there are fewer people there at one time. So I think there's a bit of work to be done in this. I think if we then further restrict this down to numbers of times per year, I mean, I can think of several other occasions where the organisation might want to have a slightly bigger event. I think if we have the requirement overall for that to be subject to an event management plan, when it happens, I think everybody is then satisfied, or everybody is then protected. And I can't see any point in actually putting I mean, it may ease some of the concerns about the locals, but I think in fairness to the proponent, they are actually unfounded fears in this case. So I'm a bit reluctant to actually start to constrain things a bit too much. If we need an event management plan for special events, then there is a procedure that it goes through. If it's a condition on here, or if it's an advice note, it doesn't much matter really. It's still going to be required. So I don't think we really need to really start to explain it at this stage.
Thank you. I will speak to this amendment. I don't support it, and my reasons are, as I earlier stated, that the elements that detail the event management are sitting outside the boundary of the proposal we have. I'm not comfortable that if they wish to do more than X amount, in this case 2 events or more people than that, it would, by regimenting it in some form of planning condition, it would potentially bring it back to this committee to make a judgment about an activity that sits on the material that we've got, includes the public land. And I think it's really blurring the consideration for me anyway about what the proposal is for, and the plans for me are the development as it sits on the site, and events should be managed through the normal processes under the normal controls of the city. I don't support it in this amendment. I do support moving the whole lot to an advice note, so it's there, it's the wording it's in, but not forming a role for a planning decision to be made on event matters that are infrequent and generally managed through the city in its own processes. Those are my comments. I move back to the mover for right of reply.
No.
We are going to the vote on the amendment. All those in favour? Against? It is lost for the minute taker. Would you like to continue speaking?
Yes, thank you. Just moving to condition 10, and this has been something that's cropped up a number of times, the number of applications where I'm suggesting at the end of the last part of the sentence where it says, which forms part of this approval, I want to add, or as modified with city's approval, comma, to the satisfaction of the city. So in other words, this is trying to say that those colours and materials and finishes may not be the same ones forevermore in the future, and without having to come back to this panel, the city could look at some changes to those materials that might occur even during the building licence phase, where they might see other materials that need to be used. So simply trying to create a bit of flexibility in the process.
Is there a seconder? It is seconded, John Syme. Any speakers on this amendment? There are no other speakers. We are going to the vote on this amendment. It's amendment 5. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Would you like to continue?
And just finally, regarding member condition 26, I want to remove the second last line there. It says submitted to and approved by the city, and take out apostrophe S, environmental health services. And the reason for that is the city is the legal entity, not the environmental health services. And it's just pretty standard stuff for these conditions. While it may go to the environmental health services person, it's really the city that's the controller of looking after these conditions.
Is there a seconder for this modification? It is seconded, John Syme. Would you like to speak further?
No.
Would the seconder like to speak? Any other speakers? We are going to Mayor Patrick Hall.
Just for the sake of our officers that are listening, I think it's a sensible amendment. From time to time, cities like ours do rename their business units. And so the name of that, the Environmental Health Services Directorate, may completely change its name, and then that condition would be somewhat redundant and difficult to enforce. So I agree, the City of Canning should always be the authority referenced.
Thank you. Any other speakers? If not, would the mover like a right of reply? We are going to the vote. All those in favour? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Any other speakers on the substantive motion? We are going to member Ben Kunze.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll start by moving an amendment, as I foreshadowed earlier, with respect to clause 18. I just wanted to add on the last sentence, currently says the landscaping in accordance with the submitted detailed landscape plan shall thereafter be maintained for the duration of the development to the satisfaction of the city. I just wanted to propose to change that to that the landscaping in accordance with the submitted detailed landscape plan shall be implemented before occupancy and shall thereafter be maintained for the duration of the development to the satisfaction of the city.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for this amendment? It is seconded Clayton Hine. Would you like to speak to the amendment?
Just to say that I think it's prudent that the landscaping be done before occupancy, and that would normally be detailed in the conditions. So I think it's pretty straightforward. Thank you.
Thank you. Would the seconder like to speak to this amendment?
I agree.
Any other speakers on this amendment? We move back to yourself, Member Ben Kunze. Do you have do you want a right of reply?
No, thank you.
We are putting this amendment to the vote. All those in favour? It's carried unanimously. Would you like to continue speaking?
Yes, I'll just say I speak in favour of the amended DAP application. I think the proponent has been in the city for 26 years, roughly, and I support the application. I did have some hesitations. I'm mindful that the city proposed to gentrify this area into residential, and that the proponent built the lot and amalgamated into its area, into its lot at 21, it bought 19 to expand. And if that hadn't happened, we probably would have seen some residential on this lot. But here we are, and we're now in a situation where we're dealing with this application, and a long-standing City of Canning entity would like to expand. I support their proposal. I'm satisfied and comfortable with many of the conditions that have been imposed. I acknowledge that, as previous speakers have mentioned, a lot of the discussion has been around the use of it, and I'm confident that if, as been mentioned, if it's used as described, then neighbouring residents shouldn't have anything to worry about, and I'm hopeful that that will be the case. So I'll be supporting the amended application. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further speakers on the substantive motion? I will speak to the substantive motion. I, like others, am supportive of the proposal. I think the site location is appropriate for the development, and the development is consistent with the objectives of the residential zone and is a discretionary use that can be considered appropriate in this zone. From my perspective at this juncture, before I continue to speak, I would like to move an amendment. My first amendment is going back to condition 8, and I would like the amendment that I want to move is that the whole condition is moved to an advice note. If I get a seconder, and I have spoken about this already today, and for the reasons relate to certainty and clarity, as well as the details sit outside of the boundary of the lot subject to this application. If there is a seconder, it is seconded Mayor Patrick Hall. As I've already indicated, from my perspective, the matters of event management are generally managed through the city, through their various mechanisms, and the details that we actually have in terms of making a judgment about it, I've already indicated, sit outside the boundary of the site, including the reserve, limiting the number of people that can attend event and all the times of event are really matters that should appropriately be considered by the city through their processes, and where necessary would include relevant negotiation and consultation with various parties. So from my perspective, and from me, I suppose fundamentally, it doesn't have a planning basis that connects to the development before us. Mayor Patrick Hall, do you wish as a seconder to speak further?
No, I need to defer to your knowledge, and I agree totally. And the city's had in recent years a similar condition in another development, another church nearby that did cause some issues for us with the need to change those conditions and amend those issues, meaning they did need to come back to an authoritative body rather than being dealt with internally through collaboration and consultation with the church. So yeah, it does run you into some trouble when they are a condition imposed by a panel. So I agree that it should be an advice note.
Are there any other speakers on this amendment? If there are no further speakers, I've already said my piece. We will go to the vote. All those in favour? Against? It is carried 2-3. Sorry, it's carried 3-2, I beg your pardon. Thank you, and I'd also like to move another amendment. My amendment is to condition 17. My amendment is to include update the waste management plan. In updating the waste management plan, it says it shall be updated to align with the approved plans. In my additional words is that to align with the additional approved plans, including modification that all waste management to be serviced and accessed via Woodthorpe Drive. So my language is a little bit clunky, but my intent of this amendment is to focus all of the activities associated with this site, including waste management, to Woodthorpe, which is what's currently happening, and protecting that rear residential, which is currently protected by long boundary fencing along that whole section of what was previously the light industrial area. And this would be the only site that has access point, and that would ensure and encourage servicing to occur off the road, but it would also prevent any secondary access, and the only secondary access would be obviously emergency access. But that's my amendment, if there is a seconder, and my reasoning. No seconder, so that lapses for the minute taker. I will go back to the substantive motion. Most people have already spoke heavily about this proposal. I am supportive of the proposal. As already indicated, the primary congregation activities occur once a week with minimal activity during the rest of the week. I have given due regard to the submissions, and I'm satisfied that the issues raised have been appropriately addressed through both the change of design and through the series of conditions that we have imposed and considered as part of today's deliberation. I'm satisfied that those updated documentation will appropriately address those matters concerned, and that the proposal in its locational context is acceptable. I move back to the mover for right and close of debate substantive.
No, thank you. I think we've all had a pretty good go. I don't think there's much more to say. I think the development, I think it's been nicely done. I think with the applications to conditions that we've done, I think we've picked up any of the inconsistencies which have come in with the application, and I think we can improve this.
Thank you. We are now going to the vote, members, on the proposal inclusive of conditions that have been moved and carried. All those in favour? It's carried unanimously for the minute taker. I move back to the agenda. There are no other applications in relation to the City of Canning, either in the form of Form 2 DAP applications or in Section 31 reconsiderations. And accordingly, I close today's meeting at 12:19 p.m. Thank everybody for your participation.
Thank you.